What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye. It's a glorious day. Now that fall weather is kind of hitting, cloudy in the morning, warm in the afternoon, a little bit cold at night, not really. It's getting there, though, which I do appreciate. And, of course, as Burn loves to call it, I hate saying this, but we've been enjoying more of the Hot D, a.k.a. House of Dragon. And, this is we just hit episode 8. Good God, I hate myself saying that. I'm cringing. My stomach is churning on the inside because it sounds so horrible. But we've hit episode 8. We got 2 more episodes this season, so this is it's been a solid season overall. I think this one and the last episode were pretty great. I'm not going to spend too much time on last episode, even though I missed it. I apologize, guys. But before we get started with the spoilers in this one, which of course, if you guys haven't seen it, come on back and then dive into it with us. But as always, please don't forget to give us a like to show your support, ring the bell to stay up to date on every time we drop a video, anything we have, and to subscribe so you can help grow our ranting community and just feel a part of something. We all want to feel part of that family. So let's keep ranting together.
Yeah. This is our own dysfunctional Targaryen family that we're cultivating here.
I hate to say it. It's either Stark or Targaryen still for me, even though one's incestuous. The dragons, man. I love the dragons.
Dragons are cool.
I guess I would hope I would have a hot cousin or sister. Not saying I want to, but if I had to do it, that's what I would hope for.
The dragons are enough.
Yeah, can I just be a celibate person in that family or just bed somebody else from a different family? I would rather do that. The incest part, I think I'm just numb to it at this point. But anyways, last episode, before episode 7 ended on a pretty crazy note where Aemond and the kids got into a fight. He lost an eye, but he gained Vhagar, like the biggest dragon of their generation. Alicent snapped and tried to, cut Rhaenyra, essentially say, "I'm going to cut you, bitch." But she just made herself look like a mad woman. And Rhaenyra and Daemon finally were able to tie the knot by faking Laenor's death so he can go to Essos with his lover and just kind of live out his days as just a regular person, no family, no nothing. And, now it's kind of the sides, Team Alicent and Team Rhaenyra are basically stacked and loaded. So, and with this episode, the Sea Snake has gone missing. We think that he could be dead from a battle of the Stepping Stones. But we don't know. No, there's no real confirmation, but most likely he is dead. And this is another time jump, which I kind of wasn't expecting, but 6 more years have passed. So now Rhaenyra and Alicent are definitely adults. They're well into their, 20s or so, I believe, late teens. And, now there's, with the whole question of the Sea Snake, now it's a matter of who is going to take it. Rhaenyra's second son, Viserys, or Baelor? Baenor? I forgot the brother's name, but the guy was a douchebag, man. He's kind of been a douche since he's episode 3 or number 2, whenever they had the fight of the Stepping Stones, just because, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm just being too harsh, Bernie. What did you think? No,
I mean, he definitely comes off as a little bit of a dick. With like you mentioned, that scene and the Stepstones, and then last week at the funeral while he's giving the eulogies, he's just looking at the Rhaenyra and her family like y'all aren't real Valerians, which to an extent he is kind of right, but again the way he's going about it is just dude, now's not the time. Your sister just niece just died, so it's why are you gonna be airing out a bunch of dirty laundry right now at her funeral? You're not doing a good job, man.
Well, it's funny because I always watch the after episode of everything on the shows because HBO has those cool moments where they do that.
Oh yeah.
And the actor himself has described Baelor or Balin, just the brother, the Sea Snake's brother, that he's a very honest person, and that's kind of parade himself throughout the years. Vaemond, thank you. Now we got something straight. Burn, at least one of us used our technology. And man, it did not serve him well this episode. And when everybody kind of gets back to King's Landing, Rhaenyra and Daemon, she's rightfully worried because if the brother took over, then essentially it just solidifies that idea that her children really are bastards, which is no secret. They're half Targaryen with the brown hair and shit. They're as the brother pointed out, they are white. There is no sense of color in them. So
They're Caucasians from the mountains of Caucasus.
Mountains of Caucasus. Yes, exactly. It's like that one might be mine. Just because he's named Darren doesn't mean he'll belong to Darren. I don't give a goddamn what this baby's name is. That's kind of his attitude towards him. And again, when it comes to the royal family and the Iron Throne, it is kind of rightful to do so, but like they said last episode, name is what matters. They are still Valyrian children. So, there was that.
Like Corlys made it known that he only cares about the name, you know, like that these boys do carry on the name, so they should be the ones to inherit High Tide. So that should go on to them. And also, you know, they're worried about the fact that if Vaemon does take over High Tide, he is in allyship with the High Towers. So he would essentially be giving them a huge piece in this game that they're playing, essentially.
Speaking of the High Towers, man, I can't stand Alicent and Otto more and more as this season has gone on, especially in their adulthood. As a child, I can kind of forgive Alicent, but as like a teen growing into an adult and stuff, I'm like, man, you've completely gone down the dark road, and I don't know what can redeem you. And Olivia Cook, she does such a great job of portraying this character.
Oh, yeah.
But, man, and they did it so well this episode that when Rhaenyra and Daemon return to King's Landing, it just feels so hollow. The kingdom is not like riving. There's no color in it. I think they did a filter on purpose to make it look cold. But and then we see that fucking star from Game of Thrones, like seasons like 4 or 5, where it's those religious nut jobs, the 7 or something like that.
Sparrows or something like that, right? I forget the guy's name.
I think they followed that star. That was like a cult group. But yeah, she's trying to play the high card of, I found religion. I forgive you guys for everything that's happened and stuff. It's like, horse shit, woman. You're just like, you and your dad have taken over. And man, Patty's character Viserys is just not surviving. I feel bad laughing, but it's like, god dang, we see him in the bedroom that Rhaenyra and Daemon find him, and he's just like, he's basically a zombie, just not even a walking corpse, just a corpse. Like the bandage along his head, it's like, god damn, that disease really is fucking him up. And it was just kind of sad. It's kind of almost like when you have a relative with like Alzheimer's or some really bad like disease that just makes him unrecognizable to you, or they don't remember you. It's tough seeing that. That's it, kind of, because my grandfather had Alzheimer's, and it was hard seeing him when his memory was really bad. Kind of reminded me of that a little bit. But this was just physically just way worse. You know, my grandfather died with both of his eyes. This guy's, he lost an eye and then some. So yeah, like that was just gruesome.
He's been quite literally rotting for the last few years. That, I mean, of course, we're doing, you know, some pretty major time jumps. This last 6-year time jump, I believe they've mentioned that this is the last big time jump that they're going to do, so I wouldn't expect any more from here on out. But yeah, I mean, he's been degrading. Like, his health has taken a huge turn. I mean, from the guy that we saw in the first episode to the person that we see now. Like, you know, we see other people around him that are of similar age, and they've aged, you know, pretty normally, and for him, like, to look at the way he does, it's just tough to see, because again, Viserys is a good dude, you know, like he's a nice person, and he in no way, shape, or form deserves like what's happening to him to happen. So the fact that, you know, I do like this dude, and to see him like degrade so harshly, it sucks. It's really sad to see, and Patty's playing it so well.
Again, I keep rewatching Hot Fuzz on Rewind just because I find that movie so enjoyable. And it's so crazy to see him go from some stupid detective inspector to this character. Like, it's so great to see him do something dramatic. But, yeah, it was really hard to see him. And you can tell Daemon and Rhaenyra kind of pick up on the fact that even though Alicent played it off as like, he's hurt, we have to give him medicine. It's like, and Daemon called it straight up, like, no, you guys are just numbing him down so you and your father could basically run the kingdom without him. And that's, I kind of agree with him. I'm like, I'm sure it's for the pain because he's dying, but it's also like, you guys are just keeping him bedridden so you could rule this place, essentially. Because again, when Rhaenyra's like, oh, this place feels like home, but it's I don't remember it because all the like there's no tapestries anymore. It's all just like literally just a giant building. So
Yeah, all the different like Targaryen iconography that had been laid out, around the castle, it's been taken down now. So it leaves very little room for Alicent and Otto to say, "Oh, we're just stepping in on his behalf because of his health." It's like, no, you're quite literally taking advantage of this man, and you're doping him up so he can sort of just stay in his bed and uh, not pose any threat, like to like say like to like stick up for himself in any way. They're taking advantage, and that it is what it is, and Daemon and Rhaenyra, like, they see that almost right away.
yeah, it was pretty shitty of them. And then nobody. I will say this: as much as I kind of root for Rhaenyra and Daemon, this show does a great job of just making these families so gray, where it's like everything they kind of do right by, whether it be a good decision or maybe being a good person, there's always something they fuck up on. And the kids really did that. We see Jaceres and Lucerys. Yeah, Luke, essentially. We see them kind of growing up, and Jay is really trying to rise up to be a king. He's preparing himself for the role when his mother, takes over and maybe dies. But I will say this, even though Alicent's been kind of a shitty, not caring mom to a certain degree, dude, Aemond had made such a change from last episode. Mm-hmm. 6 years did a lot for that kid, where he was kind of a meek, weirdo little kid. I mean, he's still a weirdo, but this episode, I hate to say it, man, he's awesome. He's like a young Daemon to me. The eye patch, everything about him is great. His fate as the Kinslayer is really coming in. And again, if you guys read the books, awesome. I have not. I've just kind of Googled this, but Aemond has a really crazy storyline in the Dance of Dragons, and this is kind of really following it pretty well for the most part. He's definitely an accomplished swordsman. He beat Kristen Cole in a sparring match, no problem. And I like his little line where he looks at him, like, nephews, are you here to train? Like, I want a piece. He's basically saying, I want a piece of you guys too, mm-hmm. Which was, I was like, fuck. And then Aegon completely went more of a dipshit line too, where that whole part about Alicent talking to Diana, the servant girl, and how she was basically just raped and paid her off to be like, okay, well, I believe you, but nobody else will. You're going to besmirch us and the prince and his wife. Like, do you really want to go that? Here's some coin and get the hell out kind of thing, which was fucked up. That just made me think, like, Alicent, you really have just morphed into a monster. You're horrible. For a woman who hates, like, the whole patriarchy and what it's done to her, she basically became a part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in a way, what's going on with Aegon is similar to what happened to her, because she was pushed into the position that she is now by her own father. And now that she's presumably for the last few years been pushing Aegon as the next successor to the throne, like saying, hey, like, your very existence puts you in danger, so you need to be ready to assume the position of leader of the Seven Kingdoms. And the kid, from last week's episode and in this week's episode, that's not something he really wants, and not something that he strives for. He just kind of wanted to just get drunk and sleep around with women, and that this sort of pushing him into that role by his mom is basically turned him rotten, basically. Not to say that he doesn't have any accountability for doing the things he's doing, which are awful, but it's like, in a way, like, we can see sort of how this decision making stemming all the way from Otto, how that's all been passed down to him, and the weight of that rule, and how he's acting out on it, and in a similar form with Aemond, who a kid seemed to have been neglected by all those around him, and is now, after he was able to claim Vhagar for himself, is now, like, sort of emboldened, and has been turning that sort of hate and resentfulness and being bullied by his his family. He's sort of twisted that into becoming this dangerous person, at least from the looks of it.
Yeah, and it's just ironic how those brothers were. Aegon was a great swordsman. Now he's just kind of just a party boy, like a shame of the family. Mm-hmm. And Aemond has risen from just again, like I said, a meek little kid to basically being the pride. Like he's ready to take over and fight. He knows there's a war coming, so he's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a shit about tournaments. None of that matters. I'm all about conquering now. And the court scene was pretty great. The tension, it was so tense in that scene. I was like, oh man, even I'm a little nervous here. Just basically Rhaenyra's family against Alicent's, and then the Velaryons just in the middle of it. And like Alicent was gonna vote him in, but when Viserys makes his comeback in there with the gold mask and just kind of hobbling up there, which was sad, but I was like, oh shit, the king is alive and he's gonna make a statement. And he just put Rhaenys like, what do you feel like is best? And now she was definitely like a swing vote, because she does hate Rhaenyra and Daemon for potentially killing her son, but he's not. They don't know that. But at the same time, she doesn't like Alicent and the High Towers as well. Like, so it's kind of like, who is she gonna go for? But when she said it straight up, like, no, Corlys always wanted Viserys to be the heir to the Driftmark. He is supposed to rule when he's gone. And we heard that in the last episode. He looked at him and he's like, what did he say? He told Viserys, like, oh yeah, when I'm gone, you'll rule Driftmark, with your cousins and stuff. This is your heir, essentially. So I thought that was really cool. And then the brother decided to just snap to, because he just saw his whole future of the throne just die. But again, his honesty came out in full force, man. He just said straight up, her kids are bastards, they don't deserve it, and your daughter's a whore. Literally a whore. Which I was like, fuck, he says, like, damn, drop the mic. But Daemon just came in, just fucking sliced his head clean in half. I was like, oh, shit. Oof. It was just, I mean, again, I will say Daemon, he's a piece of shit too. He's a monster, but he's in his older age, he has kind of gone a little more honorable as well, where he stood by his family like, no, I'm not tolerating that. That's my queen. Those are my, my stepkids and my nephews and whatever they are. I don't know the blood relation anymore at this point. That's all muddled.
They're all brother cousins.
Basically. And I keep forgetting that Alicent's kids, they're older than them, but they're uncles and aunts, so it throws me off every time. But and after that tense exchange, Viserys wanted to have that dinner with the whole family was very bitter in the beginning, but I love that one moment where they're all kind of airing out their dirty laundry in a very passive aggressive way. But Jaehaerys took Helena's hand because Helena married her brother Aegon. He dances with her just to be like, hey, I'll dance with you if your husband won't. Like, let's just have fun. And we see everybody smiling, laughing, everybody kind of like, finally there's a hope that the Targaryen family can finally solidify and just rule together. But as soon as that pig got placed in front of Aemond, now, do you think the brother that Luke ordered that on purpose for him, or was that just one of those things he remembered, like, oh, there was that joke we played on when he was a kid kind of thing?
I don't know, to be honest. That part kind of like went over my head at least, but yeah, I didn't know. It was
a little ambiguous.
I didn't know what to make of that. I have to watch that back again to get a better read on that, to sort of what set Aemond off in that scene to do the toast that he did. But before I talk about that, I do want to go back to the court scene, because I just wanted to say that was probably one of my favorite sequences of any Game of Thrones thing that we got. Like, just from Viserys coming into the scene, hobbling his way to the throne. It was just, man, like, it was such a powerful moment, and to have Daemon, give him his crown and help him the rest of the way up goes to show, like, their bond in there. So I thought that was a huge moment for Viserys, and again, excellently acted by Paddy Considine, and yeah, there's just Vaemond. He wasn't very tactful in his responses to what was going on there. He was saying the truth essentially, but it's like, dude, in the times that like this, like, where you gotta be aware of the tact and the way you go about things, that was the wrong way to do it, and he suffered for it. He did not win the game that day. So I mean, that just goes to show, like, it's you got to be a better. You got to do things like Aemond did. Him saying that. They're my very strong nephews. Like imply it. Don't go outright and say it because you'll get your head chopped off.
Well, I mean, I think he just didn't give a fuck at that point. He knew, like, if I'm not gonna have the throne, I'm gonna fucking tell everybody what I think is the truth and what is the truth.
Say the quiet part out loud. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, fuck you guys, I'm going out with a bang. And he did. Literally, he got his head cut off. But, yeah, so actually, thinking back, I think it was... Because if you remember, like, an episode or two ago when they were in the Dragon's Keep as all kids, he didn't have one. They gave him that pig, like, oh, we found a dragon for you. And that was his brother in on it, too.
Oh, there you go. That's a good callback.
When they placed that roasted pig in front of him, I think that was just coincidence, but Luke started laughing like, oh yeah, I made fun of my uncle. It's like, you chose the wrong fucking guy to make fun of, dude. He's bigger than all of you now. I was like, how stupid are you, kid? But when he did that to us, like, they're strong young men, like, he knew that would set him off, and I was like, because when they got pissed off, I was like, oh duh, strong like Harwin, God rest him. That just restarted the feud again. It's like, God damn it, you children. You fucked it. I was like a Big Lebowski. You fucked it up. You fucked it up. Oh my gosh. But again, it's just foreshadowing the fate of this family, that it's not going to go well for anybody. And,
the rift between Rhaenyra and Alicent is passed down to their kids, and there's no coming back from it anymore. It's already a foregone conclusion that this family just can't get it together.
No, and even though we kind of get the idea that the beef between Alicent and Rhaenyra was pretty much squashed. Like, they were kind of They were kind of getting over it. They were pretty damn close to being good friends again, like when they were kids. But in the end, it would just remind them, like, nope, we are still politically at war with each other. So that was a bummer. But at the end, when Viserys is, drinking the milk of the poppy and talking with Alicent, kind of trying to finish that conversation out with Rhaenyra, because he's basically blind too. He can't see very well anymore, and he spits out, "Is like, Aegon is gonna be the one to rule the land and bring us together against the Song of Ice and Fire, like against the White Walkers." He was talking about her new baby Aegon and her other baby Viserys, not Alicent's son Aegon. So I was like, oh, you fucking bitch. You're going to totally take that and run with it. That you want our son to rule, not theirs. So, I was just like, God damn it, Viserys, you bitch. But, yeah, what'd you think about that part?
I'm of two minds on it, because on the one hand, I hope that it isn't just a case of her just misunderstanding, like taking it at face value, like, okay, like, I think he said this, so I'm going to go out about that. Because if the whole events that are to come, from this episode and just the revitalization of the war between this Targaryen family stems from a misunderstanding, I think that's just very weak from a plot point of view, because I was very much ready for them to just like have their beef, like like let it be what it is. These people just don't like each other and they can't come to an agreement on anything. So the result of that is a battle for the throne. But for them to have that scene, at the dinner where it seems like you said, they sort of squashed their beef, and for that to just be reignited by a misunderstanding from a drugged up dude, it's like on his deathbed. That just doesn't sit well with me, and it doesn't make the reasonings and the motivations behind Alicent, it doesn't make it any better. Like, in fact, for me, it makes it kind of worse. So I hope that's not the case, that she's going to continue forward thinking, oh, Viserys' dying wish was for our son Aegon to be on the throne, because, I mean, it's not. Like, he would have made it known to everybody, that was his wish. So, what I'm hoping is that it is a case of just, like, willful ignorance, where she's just... she knows that he's rambling like nonsensically, and she's gonna go ahead and take that as an excuse, essentially, to further Aegon's claim, to sort of just double down, on her actions. So I hope that's the case. I hope it's not a misunderstanding thing, because it's a trope at this point that is kind of run its course, and it's not one that I particularly like. How I don't like misunderstanding tropes. I mean, but the biggest example of it recently was the Hawkeye, show with Yelena and her misunderstanding of what happened with her sister and Clint. Like, that was just so dumb. So I hope that's not the case here, because I do really like these characters, and even Allison, who's a character I've grown to dislike. I've liked her motivations up to this point being what they are. Her being jealous, her being, sort of sick of her circumstances, and her being just pretty much self-righteous. Like her using that as a shield for her just not liking her old friend anymore. Like, I think that's a little bit stronger, a little bit more real, a little bit something more understandable than what it could potentially be going forward with just, I think he said this thing, so I'm gonna go ahead and go to war off of this. It's like, it just seems very weak, and I wouldn't like that.
We'll have to see how that plays out.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I mean, I think it's definitely more of the willful ignorance, almost, just because how she's embraced religion and stuff. I think she's calculating like her father. So I think she knows exactly what he meant, but she is gonna run with it. So hopefully they do go that route. If they play it like, I didn't know what you meant, it's like, okay, really? You're not that stupid.
Yeah.
At this point, you're not stupid anymore. But before we wrap up, anything else that popped out at you this episode at all, Burn, or did we kind of cover it pretty well?
I can't think of anything right now. I'm sure there was a lot. These episodes are pretty like densely packed. So if anything comes up, we can always mention it in the next one. But yeah, I think we covered the big points, especially with all the stuff that went down in this episode, which was awesome episode.
Very solid episode. I'm loving the cast as it is right now, so hopefully they don't do any more time jumps. But until next time, guys, let us know, what are you feeling with this season? What do you want to see happen for the next couple episodes? We'd love to know. Do you agree with Burn? Are you a fan of Aemon like myself? We would love to find out. As always,
Team
guys,
Daemon forever.
So as always, guys, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for the both of us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll see y'all on the next one.